Okay, so you know that feeling when you walk into a room and something just feels well off. Like
Hmm.
the smiles don't quite seem real, or people are listening, but maybe just because they feel they have to.
Yeah, definitely. It makes you wonder what's, really going on under the surface.
Exactly, and it leads to that big question about connection.
Right. And
Right.
often the answers, or clues anyway, lie in what some people call social blind spots.
Social blind spots. Okay.
Yeah, think of them like literal blind spots in your car mirror. They're behaviors you might have that you're completely unaware of.
But others see them.
Others can see them quite clearly, yeah. And they're affected by them even if you have no idea.
Okay, so that's pretty much what we're digging into today. We've been looking at some really interesting personal reflections on this exact feeling.
Hmm.
And this whole concept that maybe our idea of how we come across socially isn't always spot on.
Right. You might think you're being friendly or engaged, but how it lands for other people, that could be a totally different story.
So our mission today, it isn't about like giving everyone a social rule book or anything.
No, not at all.
It's more about exploring that gap, the difference between what we intend and the actual impact we have.
Exactly. And trying to understand how we can maybe get a clearer picture of those habits, those unseen things that might be pushing people away, even slightly.
Even when we really don't mean to.
Precisely.
Reading the source material, the author's own experience really, it hit home.
Yeah.
Yeah, feeling like they were putting in the effort, being nice, trying to join in conversations.
Doing all the right things.
Right. But still noticing these little disconnects, like messages not getting returned or talks just kind of fizzling out.
It's like they said, like dimming the lights in the room without even touching the switch.
That's a great way to put it.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is how these blind spots often operate completely outside our conscious thought.
Okay. Like what? Give me an example.
Well, uh, someone might have a habit of interrupting. They don't realize they're doing it constantly.
Right.
Their intention isn't necessarily to dominate the conversation. Maybe they're just enthusiastic.
Hmm.
But the impact,
People feel like you don't care what they have to say.
exactly. It can come across as dismissive, like you don't value their input.
Okay, I see. And that's where this idea of a specific tool, like a test, comes in.
Hmm. The author explored this personality test that was actually designed to try and highlight these hidden tendencies.
So not just asking, do people like me, but digging deeper.
Yeah, much deeper. Trying to get at the why behind interactions that might feel off, why things aren't clicking the way you'd hope.
That takes some guts, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Real courage to even think, hey, maybe you have some unintentional stuff going on.
Yeah,
Because that kind of self-reflection, looking honestly at yourself, it's not always comfortable, is it?
definitely not.
So the text, in this situation, it kind of acts like a mirror.
Mhm.
It offers a perspective you just can't get on your own.
The author actually said the results were, quote, hard to read, but they told the truth.
Wow, yeah.
That really highlights how vulnerable that process can feel. It's tough to face how others might actually be seeing us.
It really is. And we develop these habits for all sorts of reasons, right? Sometimes they're coping mechanisms from way back, or maybe we just never got feedback.
Nobody ever told us.
Exactly. So the value of something like this test, or even just asking for feedback, is bringing those unconscious patterns out into the open.
And your conscious awareness.
Right. So you actually have the chance to look at them and decide if you want to change anything.
So the core takeaway then from the source is really this idea of getting a clearer reflection,
Yeah, that mirror analogy the author used is perfect.
moving past just guessing or assuming and getting a better sense of how our actions are, truly landing.
And if you think about the bigger picture, that kind of self-awareness and how we interact socially, it's pretty fundamental
It's for building better connections.
for building stronger, more authentic connections, yeah. If
Hmm?
you understand your potential blind spots, you can adjust things. You can try to align your intentions with how you're actually perceived.
Okay. And the author mentioned even with this new awareness, it's like still a work in progress.
Of course. It always is.
But importantly, they started feeling like the connections were becoming more genuine.
Which suggests that understanding and maybe tweaking these things can lead to more fulfilling interactions, less of that off feeling.
Right. Less wondering.
Yeah. And, this brings up a really interesting question for you listening.
Mhm.
If you've ever had that nagging feeling, that sense of disconnect in your own social life, are you genuinely willing to look in that mirror?
Mm.
Are you really open to maybe understanding some potentially uncomfortable truths about yourself if it means paving the way for more real connection?